Hello and welcome to the Gambling Files podcast, the podcast that is talking more quickly this week because we're very, very limited for time. My name is John Bruford. I'm one of your hosts, joined by our other host, Fintan Costello. Fintan, hello, how are you?
We don't have time for that. Come on, let's go.
Okay, sorry. We need to speed this one up. You might want to play this at half speed because Fintan is a very busy executive and we don't want to be getting in the way of that particular juggernaut. We are very pleased with today's episode. We're pleased with all our episodes. We don't do favourites, do we, Fintan?
Never.
Do you think our listeners do favourites?
Absolutely. As they should.
And how do you think that pans out for us?
I'll probably hedge it, I suppose.
What are you saying?
Oh, you're talking about episodes or hosts? Sorry,
Hosts.
I misunderstood.
Hosts.
Oh, fucking me. Like, there's even a thing. What do you expect me to say?
You seem very confident.
Well, I've got the data. Like,
what is there some like surreptitious vote that I'm not aware of?
Yeah. Every episode. I've been hiding. I didn't want to crush your spirit, so I've been hiding the results. But since you brought it up,
and given the 12 months or so that I've had, I'm not sure my spirits could be crushed further.
we could give it a good go, John. Got a couple of weeks left.
Yeah, it'll get me looking forward to that arbitrary line of New Year's Eve, where everybody says, "No, I'm going to do better next year." Because I've got a couple of weeks left of this year to really fuck myself up. I hate New Year's Eve.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
But hey, I've got the kids here this New Year's Eve. And you know what that means?
Everyone gets to stay up late.
No, the opposite. It means a fucking early night. And when they're like, "But isn't it New Year's Eve?" I'll go, "No, that's tomorrow."
Just move the clocks.
And then in the morning they'll be like, "Oh, it's New Year's Eve tonight. Can we stay up late?" And say, "Kids, we need to talk." That was last night.
You all fell asleep. I tried to wake you up. You were asleep.
You misunderstood what I said when I said no. That's tomorrow. I meant at midnight. It becomes tomorrow, and that's New. That's the way I'm going to go with this. I think. What could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong, John?
Does everybody's kids end up hating them?
No. Shouldn't be.
Okay. Just checking. Not that mine do. Yet. Plenty of time for that. Did you know that in the UK there were 241,600 miners in 1979? As people that work down mines.
I was going to say, like, we're talking like small people or like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder how many there are today.
Not as many.
Not even a tenth of that.
At least.
In fact, probably not even 1% of that. And it's probably just people who identify as miners. It's not.
There's probably some little gold mine or something, or somebody's got a little something of something that's kind of just ticking along.
Yeah, there's some. When I was working at QVC, admittedly, it's 25 years ago. When I was at
Can we just conscious of the time? Can we?
This is a very short story.
Famous last words. Go.
There's a Welsh gold brand.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like it's one of those things. Like it's basically the homeopathy.
Was it stolen?
No, there was apparently a small amount of gold in Wales. And but what they've done instead of this, I think I'm remembering this right. It was Clogau gold. I'm certainly saying that wrong.
Yeah, definitely.
And they it just had a percentage of Welsh gold in it, but it was a very small percentage. It was the homeopathy of gold.
It's been rubbed up against some gold.
Rubbed against the Welshman. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure they sold that on Pretty sure they sold that on QVC. I didn't buy any personally.
There's a gold mine in Northern Ireland, I think. And I think because it's one of those like ones where the price is high now, so it's actually made it economical to start digging or something. So there's always these kind of things.
Given the fluctuating costs, you just fucking dig it and keep hold of it and then don't tell anybody. This is why I'm an economist, Fintan.
Yeah, well, you got to typically borrow the money to dig it to pay it back. So it's all usually done on fucking credit. So it's make it harder. Anyway.
So anyway, right?
Well,
I'm not going to tell you who's in this episode until you tell me who our sponsors are.
We've got 3 sponsors, John. We've got
3.
Clarion Gaming, the kings of ice. We've got Optimove, the kings of CRM software for the gambling industry. We've got EveryMatrix, the kings of white software solutions for sportsbook, casino, and lotteries globally.
The kings of everything is possible.
Their forces combined bring you the Gambling Files.
Yeah, they do. It's a good call. I like what you did there. So it made it sound like an action movie.
Yeah, you got to mix it up a bit, otherwise people get like sponsor fatigue and stuff. Yeah, it's little touches we bring to the table as a global.
It's a good call.
The gambling industry's largest podcast.
Yeah, certainly the most persistent.
We don't brag about that enough. We should talk about that more.
Well, we were talking a while ago, and you were like, "Oh, we've fucking charted in these countries."
Yeah, we're all over. Like we chart in business news fucking globally. Like
that's crazy, isn't it?
And I'm not talking like 99. Like we're fucking like top 20, top 15, top 10.
Amazing.
Yeah. I'm like fuck you, Joe Rogan. Like,
yeah, Rogan, if that is your real name.
Fuck you, Tim Ferriss. Because what I always love is there's like The Economist and the Financial Times and Bloomberg and like a Joe Rogan or a Tim Ferriss, and then there's like us. Just in the mix, doing our fucking thing. Fuck you guys. It's a real underdog story. Go on.
Rogan, if you're listening, if you've got any integrity at all, you'll have us on your podcast.
Oh, I'd love to do Rogan. Every PR agency I've ever hired, I've always laid down the challenge. I will buy you Lamborghinis if you get me on Joe Rogan.
So does that mean if my challenge works, I get a Lamborghini? Because I cannot tell you how happy my kids would be, but also on the road out of this cul-de-sac onto the main road, there's speed bumps in both directions. So it might have to be airlifted in and just left on the drive.
They've got a little thingy for speed bumps. Little adjuster.
Okay, so if anybody listening knows Joe, let's call this project Get John a Lamborghini.
Let's get John a Lambo.
So, now you're talking. What would Eddie
today
do?
Who's our guest today?
That's a great question. We are joined by James Kilsby, who's the chief analyst at Vixio Gambling Compliance. Very, very well known in the industry. They've been covering regulatory compliance and a load of other stuff for fucking hell, 20 years. Yeah, nearly 20 years, I think.
Look, if you want to learn stuff, you come to the Gambling Files podcast, and then once you've rinsed us dry for all our insights and knowledge and our guests, you go over to Vixio, and they'll take care of it. Basically,
yeah. I've never had a subscription to Vixio, but I've always wanted one.
I've seen some of the reports. They are excellent.
Yeah.
They're very, very knowledgeable people, which you'll see when you listen to James.
Yeah, James is terrific.
He is absolutely terrific.
We get into, we focus primarily on the UK and the US in this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so much interesting.
We talk about prediction markets. We talk about the duty rises in the UK.
Yeah.
And a host of other stuff.
A lot of other stuff. But we never talk about how many miners there were in 1979 in the UK. So that's why I wanted to drop that into the intro.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm a giver.
Little twist on it.
I'm sorry, what?
I said it was your little twist on it. I like it. It's sprinkling of John.
Fintan, I twist everything.
I know you do.
You had me at 241,600 minus. Yes, meet James Kilby. He's a terrific guest, and hopefully one that will return as well
I think so.
in the future.
I hope so.
If we didn't piss him off too much.
No, I don't think I think he had a great time.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll find out.
Enjoy the episode. We welcome this week's guest to the podcast, no less than first-time guest, hopefully not last-time guest, who knows. We welcome James Kilsby, Chief Analyst of Vixio Gambling Compliance. James, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
It's all right. To be fair, you're doing the heavy lifting here.
Well, we'll see.
Well, but it's genuine. It's a pleasure. I'm very aware of the work of gambling compliance because I think gambling compliance started shortly after I'd started in the gambling industry on it was Casino International magazine, which would have been about 21 years ago.
Yeah, no, that's right. No, been around since right at the start of 2007, and so at the time, I joined around about that time myself, and the online gambling industry was very, very different, obviously then than today. But we just started to see governments actively regulate and tax. I know we'll come on to some of this, some of the trends we see today shortly, but. It was right about that point in time, right, where the online gambling industry was just starting to be actually regulated and taxed. And we got up and running, firstly mapping out sort of expansion of regulation across Europe from the UK and Italy, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously seeing that trend continue in North America, LATAM, Africa, and beyond. So, the industry has transformed over the past 18 or so years that we've been around.
I used to see one of your chaps out and about. He's not with you guys anymore. I don't mean he hasn't died, but it was, and I think he was one of your founders, Andrew Gellertley.
Yeah. No,
and he's did he go to the Isle of Man regulator?
He went to the Alderney Gambling Control Commission as executive director there. So gone from chronicling trends in regulation and compliance to
hiding them.
I was going to say implementing.
That too.
It's probably a safer term for it, but there you go.
Yeah. No, he's a good guy, and as I say, we always see each other in different. All the gambling press used to see each other all around the world at various different times of the year, and so we all. You see each other at the airport, you see each other at the parties, you see each other, at the hotel, etc. I never could talk him into giving me a free subscription. So,
I guess God loves a trier, but there we are.
Yeah. No, he doesn't, because I haven't even got any hair. So, I don't think there's any love for me from God. Even though he apparently made me in his image. If he made me in his image, how come Fintan's got hair and I haven't? How does that work, God? Anyway.
It's one of those mysteries, John. It's one of those mysteries.
Is it a mystery, though, Fintan?
I don't know.
It's probably fucking science or some nonsense. But anyway, James, that's not what we got you here to talk about. So this episode's been a long time in the making. Which is one of the reasons I'm very happy that you're here. And it's sort of, I don't know, Fintan, I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel like we've sort of made it because we've got somebody from Vixio Gambling Compliance on. It's like legitimizing us. We're no longer the cowboy outsiders.
Really? I don't think about them at all. I'm joking. No, I agree. It's fantastic to get some heavy hitters in. So James,
some real people.
There's lots going on.
Lots.
We've got a smorgasbord of topics to choose from.
Smorgasbord.
That's the word. John's the words guy. He's educating me slowly.
Fintan's the haircut guy.
We've got to start with the UK.
Yeah, fair, yeah.
UK Judy, what's going on? How fucked is it? What's happening?
Yeah, so obviously frankly, it's a dark day for the UK industry last Wednesday, right, with the budget announcement and increase in particularly the increase in remote gaming duty. So the tax applied to online casinos from going from 21% to 40%. I don't think it's not really a surprise. No one, I don't think anyone was surprised on the day that taxes are going up. That had been well telegraphed in advance, I think, and the industry obviously made arguments contrary to keep taxes consistent, but I wasn't surprised. I think the question heading into budget day was, what would be in the Chancellor's red briefcase. Wasn't whether there would be a gambling tax increase. It was to what
How
number.
much?
Yeah. Whether, I think the industry probably held out some hope that it would go from 21% to 30, maybe 35%. So going to 40% stings, and it's going to sting. I think for the industry. That will have a big impact right across the board. There's obviously some relief for bingo and for a positive for the industry at large that machine games duty stayed the same. No increase in the tax applied to fob tees and other types of gaming devices. Horse racing industry would have been pretty happy that.
But here's a question. So, obviously, the horse racing industry has done a wonderful job at lobbying the government around like jobs and local employment and impacting the economy and the culture and heritage of horse racing. Horse racing is obviously massively reliant upon the online operators supporting it. With the tax increase, is this like one of these like second order effects of they've won the battle but lost the war? Like what do you see as the trickle down impact on the horse racing industry of the increase in duty on online sports betting or casino as well, right? Because it's all kind of interlinked. And where do you see that going?
I mean, it's hard to say, right? Well, time will tell exactly what the impact is going to be, but the horse racing industry obviously benefits directly from the levy that betting operators pay, and that's unchanged. The tax rate paid on horse race betting revenue is going to be unchanged, but the industry is obviously dependent on bookmakers for sponsorship money and other types of support that are outside of that.
So there's the direct sponsorship of the racing, but then there's also like whoever's sponsoring Channel 4
exactly.
or the TV channels who are also then buying the TV rights type stuff, right? So there's a whole circular economy of money going around there that feels like it's all up for debate.
No, I think that's what we're going to really come to understand much clearer second half of 2026, because it was two things really about the budget. If you remember correctly, right, the government's initial intention, I think this was begun under the former Conservative government, but what the UK government had looked at was actually harmonising gambling taxes. There was a consultation on whether to bring consistency to to the industry and how it was taxed, because you had betting duty and remote gaming duty and pool betting duty, right? I think they were 15%, 21%, and the government's past consultation was on harmonising, simplifying, and bringing those together. And actually, what we've ended up with is a much more complicated and diverse set of tax rates, where you got online casino revenue taxed at 40%, online sports betting taxed at 25%, in-person sports betting taxed at 15% still, horse racing still going to be 15%, spread betting 15%, pool betting is going to be still 15%. So the outcome of this has been an opposite of what the noises were. I mean, again, admittedly, from a previous government rolling back 2 or so years, but the winds were blowing initially in the direction of harmonisation, and the outcome is a much more diverse set of tax rates that can be hard to navigate. And I do, to your point and to your question, I guess the government has legislated for this in quite a linear way. and they've thought, we want to protect horse racing. Let's keep horse racing taxes the same. We want to protect high street bookmakers for the jobs that betting shops maintain up and down the country. Let's have no tax increase on fob team machines, no tax increase on in-person betting. We want to protect sports, to a degree, football, but especially sort of the darts, snooker.
Yeah.
There's tons of, for want of a better term, sort of second-tier sports that are really, really reliant on betting operators for their sponsorship revenues. Well, let's have a lower tax rate for sports betting online of 25%, and tax online casino, remote gaming higher at 40%, because supposedly is a great causer of gambling harms, but also I think it doesn't have those direct connections to sports and to horse racing.
You're not going to lose any votes.
You're not going to lose any votes, or I get it, right? And on that logic, I can see why from the government's point of view, there is less opposition, and a tax increase on remote gaming is more palatable, so that should pay a higher rate. But as I say, the government's approached this very linearly and thinking, well, we're protecting horse racing, we're protecting betting shops. We are, I guess, to some degree, they're looking to keep that investment going in the land-based casino sector. That there's been other regulatory changes to bolster land-based casinos. They've not been undermined by an increase in slot machine taxes. Again, protect bingo halls. But this is what we'll find out. To what extent is like investment in those segments linear, and how much is this actually a pot that comes from the industry working, it's consolidated around some larger, some medium-sized, some smaller operators, but it's kind of all coming from the same place. And I think my suspicion would be that everybody suffers because the industry at large suffers from this online sports betting, but particularly so the remote gaming duty.
Yeah,
so
agreed.
That's what I think is we're going to find out.
I've got
that's true.
2 questions.
Go ahead.
And then I'm just going to shut up until the end. Land-based casinos, etc., slot tax wasn't touched, right? That's one of the more unusual parts of this, I think so. Because we've got the white paper, etc., supposedly implementation looming, and one of the big things in that was an increase in the number of slots. So that would have been a really easy cherry to pick, and they didn't touch it. And I think I find that a little bit peculiar. I really do, because we are actually, in very real terms, we're talking about the increase in numbers in, certainly in all the new build casinos, and there's a fair few of those in the UK. We are talking about quite a big increase in profit just from those machines. So I think it's a really weird thing for them to have not done.
Particularly when you've got like dedicated slots halls, we're not even talking like mixed use casinos with like twice as many slot machines. We're dealing like those slots arcade things.
Adult gaming centers, right?
That's the words, right?
Yeah.
Are like just little piggy banks that just spew cash. It is. I agree with you. I think it just doesn't stack up. And particularly given as part of the increase at that time, there was the whole, like back to James's point, the harmonization. The whole land-based argument is we should be harmonized with online, which I'm guessing is not going to be the argument going forward.
No. But it's interesting. So part of the argument for it being online that got kicked in the nuds was, this is the place where the greatest harm happens. Well, actually, I think what we should be saying, and what we as an industry should be arguing, is that is the place where the most harm happens. Yes, because that's the place where it's easiest to track. That's the place where we know the harm happens. You can't do that with fucking scratch cards, and you can't do it in a fucking AGC. So it's just the most visible. And what you're doing is you're going to ultimately turn people away from the most visible and most trackable, where KYC and all that is the easiest to do out of any of these things. And you're going to push them elsewhere.
What's okay? But if we take the gaming duty as the example, right? What's the online gaming duty? So online casino tax has gone up to what, 45%?
40%, yeah.
It's 40%. What's the impact on the customer? So the impact on the customer is going to be less bonuses, lower RTPs.
Yeah.
But bonus is the obvious one, aren't they?
That's my obvious. RTP is a bit. I don't know how much squeezing they can really do there. Can be a little bit, but they're if you it's totally counterproductive to drop down to whatever the minimum RTP is set by legislation.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it is in the UK. Normally it's like sort of 85% is the minimum RTP, and no online casino offers slots at 85% RTP. You're talking 95%, right? So you can't claw back. There's no way of clawing back that extra 19% in tax. I think through either bonuses or marketing reductions or through RTP. So honestly, the operators are going to have to absorb less profitability one way or another, I think.
Yeah.
And the other thing we haven't spoken about, which is it is a real thing, is the rise of the black market. There are I personally think, going back several years, the industry likes to talk of illegal offshore operators as a bit of a boogeyman. It sort of spoke about risks of bleeding to the black market, to advocate for a sustainable level of regulation. But that's become much more real and much more of a genuine threat. Has been less so probably up until this point, slightly less so in the UK than in other markets, Germany or whatever. But that's a real thing. The rise of crypto, it particularly has made it much easier to deposit and withdraw on illegal sites. That's something that's fairly recent. That's definitely within the last 3 to 5 years. This has become a much more of a real threat. The Treasury itself is not banking on receiving all of the, I can't remember the exact statistic, but it's something along the lines of, in theory, increasing remote gaming duty from 21% to 40% should raise an additional something like £1.8 billion, and the Treasury is assuming it's going to make 1.1 billion. And 700 million will bleed out to the black market. That's a material.
But that projection, it's over 5 years as well. It's like their projected figures are over 5 years, and you're thinking, was it really worth it? You could have put all kinds of things in. If you want to make this more complex, put tiering in, put whatever you want in. It doesn't have to be a stick with nails in. Work with.
But the government was literally looking down the back of the sofa for spare change.
That's true. Yeah.
Like this was
allegedly, because it's all kicking off about that now. It's all kicking off about, did she falsely say, lads, I'm looking down the sofa for change? And it's that is what is presently kicking off in UK politics. Did the Chancellor exaggerate? Well, that's never happened before.
Politician exaggerate? Impossible. Okay, so look, I completely agree with you, James. I think the worse the conditions become for the punter in the UK, they have offshore options that are a click away. And I think the UK has never been bad enough where offshore was super attractive, unless you're mega VIP type levels.
That's right. Yeah.
The gaming duty will affect Okay, so let's say the increase in gaming duty on casinos affects bonuses. Bonuses is something that customers really feel. Like it's a core part of the experience. And like I was in Spain when like we had a comparison website in Spain when Spain turned off welcome offers. And the offshore guys popped up with lots of welcome offers, and we were playing by the rules, and those punters all went to competitor offshore websites. So welcome offers do have a big impact, or are a big impact of user choice. Sure. And realistically, we can tell the difference between a regulated operator and an unregulated operator in the UK. The average punter can't. All right, they all look the same. Can you really tell that? So it I think this could be the one that finally, I think this plus the affordability checks and extra documentation and that kind of stuff, which is a sticking point. I think that the double whammy of that is the one where this accelerates. And then if there's the downstream effects then of affiliates getting affected, making less money, being, their businesses being affected and stuff as well, there's going to be lots of small to medium affiliates also switching to promoting offshore brands.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, because if you think of all the white label casinos in the UK, which are operating on pretty thin margins already, if they've now just doubled their tax base or their tax payments, like there's going to be a lot of white labels. They're going to be like, should we even be in the UK market anymore?
That's right. Yeah. No, I
plus, the extra cost of all the other and everything else. So you could really see a big shakeup of small to medium brands in the UK. And then we just end up with a Flutter, an Entain, and an Evoke.
No, I think there's that I'm sure that's what's going to happen. The extent to which it happens is a bit of the question, right? Like, how many of the small to medium companies pack up and go? Somewhat. There's little doubt on that.
Yeah.
Well, I think you'll see a lot of them actually start to disappear next summer.
Yeah.
So
after the World Cup.
That's it. After the World Cup, they'll take 3 months to wind down. So actually, let's say by October, November next year, we'll actually have a really good idea of who's going to tough it out and gravitate to the new normal. But I do think it'll happen really fast.
It'd be interesting. So if you look at the finance industry, so if you look at the trading firms in the UK, there's a special classification of client called professional, where the people who are classified as, like, if you go to like an IG or like one of the CFD brokers or something like that, Saxo, these kind of guys, there's a classification for professional. So there's retail and there's professional. If you get the retail classification, you get access to higher leverage and some other bits and pieces that you don't get as retail. And what a lot of the brokers are doing is they're getting these types of people. No, they don't sign up here. You're actually signing up through our Swiss entity. And then they're using the EU passporting system to bring people in. I'm thinking out loud, and as I'm saying it, I think I'm talking nonsense, but I was just curious, is there going to be a big incentive to get people to sign up? No, don't sign up with our UK entity. Sign up with our Maltese entity or our JIB or something else. But I don't think it works like that.
I don't think it'll work. No, I think it would be
the breach.
A license revocation issue. If you actively pushing UK players to an entity that was in another market to avoid tax.
But if it was a license you were giving up anyway.
That's you're probably more likely to give up. Honestly, more likely to give up a license and move offshore, for want of a better term, than try and double dip in the market. I think that'd be tricky.
That's fine.
Right. There's obviously, like, we will see. There's been a kind of long-term trend in the industry operators and suppliers diversifying away from one market, just from the UK. Evoke is more exposed directly to the UK for a proportion of its revenue than Entain. But Evoke's still in, Romania, Denmark, Spain, Italy, material presence in a few other markets. But so we'll see some of that. Medium-sized companies will prioritise other markets above the UK. But also that's not an easy thing to do, and a lot of other markets are, apart from the offshore unregulated market, which is kind of global by definition, most other markets have their own regulatory and tax challenges at the same time as well. So there aren't too many, oases. Is that the right word? Plural of oasis? Oases in the desert where you can go to and make a lot of money in sort of new ground regulated markets that don't come with other tax and regulatory headaches. That involves long-term planning and careful execution. So it's hard to kind of. We'll see companies pivoting away from the UK and investing in other markets, but that's 100%. That's also easier said than done as well.
It is. International traffic's just become way more important, or non-UK.
Yeah.
All right. You touched on actually something else. It's okay. We're just looking through our. How do you pronounce it, John? Smorgasbord? Smorgasbord? S'mores? Cool.
Well, I muted the mic, but I muted it in a different way to how I normally do it. So it took me a while to get to the instruction there. Smorgasbord.
That's the word.
Have you never seen the movie Tremors? No. Fucking hell, Fintan.
Supplier compliance risk survey. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we're going we're going to go in the weeds now of compliance and regulatory issues in the gambling industry. We're all nerds at Vixio, so myself included. So apologies for that one up front. So one of the things that we've really seen at Vixio is even today, right? Operators bear the brunt and bear the burden of compliance. We've just spoken about tax, but licensing and advertising, and ultimately the operators are responsible for complying with full set of laws, regulations, etc. But one thing we've seen over the course of 5+ years for sure, suppliers within the industry, so companies that provide games and provide platforms and other sort of supporting systems, or even sort of KYC, technology, etc., etc. It's quite a long tail, particularly at the higher end when it comes to games, platforms, etc. A lot more regulation is falling on suppliers, and it's something we heard a lot more about at Vixio from our clients. One thing we did earlier this year was take the temperature of the supplier community to see how they felt around some core issues. Key trends are there is a trend that suppliers are having to obtain their own licenses. That kind of happened organically in North America, where from the mentality of keeping the mob out of the casino industry, the historic approach of US regulators had been that any company that touches a portion of gaming revenue, or even any company that does business with a casino, needs to be licensed. It stops the mob being paid 10% of GGR to take the trash out. That's the historic mentality behind it. But that carried on through land-based casinos and through sports betting and iGaming, where suppliers have had to be licensed in North America. We're seeing that trend extend globally, where across Europe and parts of Latin America as well, suppliers are having to obtain their own licenses in order to participate in those markets and sell games or systems or platforms to operators. That's one thing that a very strong majority of suppliers expect to continue, and I think about sort of 3/4 of people we surveyed think that a majority of European jurisdictions will require supplier licensing in the future.
And just on the supplier license, so and the US is a good example. So if you get a supplier license from one state versus, let's say, okay, Nevada looks at your global activity, where one of the other states will just look at your activity within their state because that's their. So, you can have a supplier license and be licensed for that jurisdiction, but it doesn't necessarily mean everything you do is licensed.
Not necessarily. Although I think, I'll come on. So the other part of the supply licensing we saw in the survey is regulators globally are much more attuned today about the crucial role of suppliers in the online gambling industry than they were in years past. There's a majority of suppliers that expect over the next 5 years, suppliers are going to have a binary choice that they either serve regulated, licensed operators and licensed markets, or they serve offshore, unregulated ones. That trend's happening. So, yeah, to your question, in the US, whether a regulator looks at the global activity of a supplier or just on the sort of legitimacy of the activity in the state, it kind of depends more on the mentality of the regulator than it does anything in the law or regulations. Regulators look for companies to demonstrate their suitability to have a license, and how far and how extensively they look beyond the sort of licensing disclosure and criminal background checks, which are pretty universal for every state. How far regulators want to look at what companies do outside of the US versus within the US can depend on the state. So that's partly why Nevada does take a closer look and more detailed look and a more public look at activities of all companies outside of the state. But New Jersey does as well. And I think it's fair to say that some US regulators, partly due to resourcing, but they will largely defer to a Nevada or New Jersey. If what's disclosed in a license application checks out and they run their own criminal background checks and fingerprints and all kinds of things, many would take the mindset, if New Jersey's looked at this and is okay with it, and maybe Nevada has as well,
then you're good to go.
We're not going to relitigate it. But
okay,
I think
so the industry, so the suppliers expect then licensing is going to become normal, and you're either white or black. There's no more grey, which is basically the journey the operators have been through as well, right?
I think so.
Like it's the exact same journey.
I think so. Although having said that, I mean, there is still grey,
for sure.
And so I think
but it's getting smaller and smaller, right?
Yeah,
it's getting,
I think there's some nuance within that.
Shades of grey.
Yeah, the lighter shades are okay, and maybe in the past a very, very dark shade of grey could pass, and that's the case now. But it comes back. I think come back to that question we had around in the UK context about growth of the black market and ease of access to the black market. You mentioned that, I think 100% spot on. Maybe we could tell the difference. We could find a way of telling the difference between an unlicensed and a black market site and a legit licensed one.
Says not on GamStop at the top.
Well, yeah. Many people couldn't. I think many regulators are seeing the view now that the biggest differentiator is probably game content. If you can stop bona fide top quality online casino game content from being placed on illegal sites.
But this is what the Gambling Commission's been energetically trying to do, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. No, and not just the Gambling Commission. Sweden has been one of the first, I think, in Europe to introduce supplier licensing. That's as much of the logic behind it as anything else. It's if you have a license in Sweden as a supplier, you are signing up to a pledge not to have your game content.
A pledge?
I promise.
Well, that's where this is where it's sort of it's not.
There's a big Swedish elephant in that room.
Yeah, well, this is where there's some nuances, but part of that is not supplying your content to unlicensed operators active in Sweden, and operators will have to abide by that and agree to that as part of a license condition, direct license condition in Sweden, in other markets. Spain is looking at this currently, so is Brazil. Where it gets difficult, I think this is where the challenge for regulators in the industry is many suppliers, most suppliers will not directly sell their content to licensed operators in the UK in a whatever market, and also sell it to illegal operators. The challenge is where there's aggregators and sub-aggregators and probably sub-aggregators that are distributing the content through different third-party agreements, and it still finds its way onto the black market.
Yeah, of course.
And that's going to be a challenge to fully unwind that, and finding the right balancing act for a supplier where what is the right approach to have three strikes and out, or two.
But look, let's be. I think it's suited the industry.
That's right.
And
that's right.
I think unwinding it is probably relatively straightforward, because ultimately they'll know where their games are showing up. There's not that many casinos, right?
And if they can't tell that, are they really technology companies?
Well, they're getting paid, right? They're getting paid per transaction. So they have to know where the games are ending up. Right? There's a whole, there is a little thread.
There is, that's right. No, so I think so what we're seeing is regulators starting to pull more on that thread.
Yeah.
And, and that will, that's happening already, and that's going to accelerate more. I mean, this is going to be something that the Gambling Commission in the UK is already serious about.
But it's lucky though. It's kind of lucky that AI has risen as fast as it has, so that all those poor illegal operators, because they might have to make their own games. I'm not trying to put ideas in anybody's heads, but making a game is not as difficult as it used to be.
No, that's right. That's another challenge. It really is, because
cloning a game is pretty easy too, right? It's like, fucking no, it is my Starburst. It's a Starburst.
Make me an online slot game with buffaloes in it. It's not.
Fintan, I would go with Stabrust. Yeah, and I'd slightly change the theming, something like a rusty knife.
But that's it, because like the offshore casinos, right? They don't care about being licensed and paying tax. They sure as hell don't care about copyright. Well, we've seen that already. You've seen cloned branding a lot on the operator side. So offshore sites that look a lot exactly.
This is like
exactly the same colouring as other things.
There was a major exhibitor at one of the conferences once that looked similar to Bet365.
That's right.
There was 365 staff walking in and going, "Oh, I didn't realise we had two stands." Genuinely confused.
I think they came back on day 2 advice with their lawyers. And seriously, I think that happened. And I think you'll see that a lot more. I mean, it already happens to a degree, right?
It does.
You see the same dozen or so core themes of slot content that
well, there's a leprechaun, there's a buffalo, there's there's a mermaid, there's a fucking
Egypt.
Egypt.
Egypt's definitely the pharaohs. But that will be another. I wouldn't pretend to know exactly how it happens, but definitely AI is going to make that easier to reproduce quickly, and move on and reproduce again and do whatever. So it's going to get hard. It's going to the extent that thread is being pulled, it might be harder to procure game content from licensed suppliers of the offshore market. It'll be easier for other companies to develop them and develop knockoff versions of it because of AI, for sure.
The other software trick, and we've seen this maybe with some platforms and stuff, is like you spin off a business. So you've got your legit business with the premium IP. You've got your unregulated business with the same back end, just needs a different front end skin, and off you go, right? So copying code's relatively straightforward as well.
I have been waiting and waiting and waiting for the market to go properly, fully, broadly live in India, because there isn't a country in the world that has more hilarious copyright laws than India, because they don't have any.
Really?
You can remake any movie you want with exactly the same storyline. Doesn't matter. And this is why you see so many, well, one of the reasons you see so many Western movies remade for Indian audiences, because you can't sue for copyright infringement for IP in India. That would be fucking hilarious. And but also terrible, but hilarious. You would see a stab rust, I tell you. This allows us to segue, I think, quite nicely potentially into the US, because the US is just bizarre at the moment. I mean, it's just, and so you're based in DC, right?
Yeah.
So presumably you see people crying in the streets all the time. Also, though, it's worth noting that some of America's finest punk bands have come out of DC. Just wanted to throw that in there.
Well, you can't just leave us cliffhanger like that. What's the Who?
Well, no, the Who aren't a punk band. No, Black Flag are the really obvious one.
Fintan and I looking a bit blank there. Marvin Gaye was from DC.
There we go.
That's
Proud of him.
One of my all-time favourites as well. Marvin Gaye.
Not a punk rocker though.
No, not at all. But post Marvin Gaye. But yeah, DC punk early, well, through the 80s actually was really, really vibrant. There were some really, really good bands out of DC, and Black Flag were probably, I appreciate, not to this crowd, but Black Flag were probably the best known. Henry Rollins, you must know Henry Rollins.
Yeah, Henry Rollins. Okay,
Rollins sang with Black Flag. So the US, because the black market argument is used frequently in the US, and it's got these huge complications of, so you got sports betting legal in tens of states now, you got iCasino legal in hardly any, you've got sweeps operating in loads of places, you've got prediction markets theoretically in 50 states, and it just feels like the whole thing is just an absolute and utterly avoidable mess.
That's one way of putting it. Yeah. Now I think that there's two different things that are going on in the US that seem similar but are different. One is there's a very, very long history of gambling products being put to market, but they're not gambling. They're definitely not gambling. Please don't call them gambling. We've seen that in the land-based side when it comes to different types of gaming machines. Skill game machines is a sort of common current iteration of them. But there was sweepstakes cafes of 10 years ago, and some of those have legitimized over time, and some of them just sort of get shut down, can't remember the name. So in the land-based industry, there's always been a history, despite there being hundreds and hundreds of commercial and tribal casinos. There's big demand for illegal, unregulated, non-gambling slot machines. So we continue to see that in different guises, but also online. So sweepstakes casinos coming into the US market, offering products that do look, feel, and play like online casinos, but operating under sweepstakes law, which is different state to state. There's different case law and different loopholes and different definitions across all 50 states. So some states are more fertile ground for it than others. So we're seeing a continuation of that trend of non-gambling gambling products being offered into the US market state by state. Honestly, DFS and DFS plus New Generation Fantasy Sports kind of a similar bucket around that, although DFS went legitimized in many states. So that's one thing. Prediction market is something totally different. The idea that you have a federally regulated financial product that can offer trading on events, including sports, as that emerged with Kalshi and Crypto.com. It's kind of like a classic black swan event that no one saw coming, but actually in hindsight, everyone could see it coming. Thing where that's totally different, because the idea that under a federal authorization you can offer, I think what many people would agree is a form of gambling in all 50 states, that's different than the piecemeal loopholes in state legal definitions that we've seen over time. So sweepstakes is prediction markets highly disruptive to the industry, because the paradigm, I guess that's a fancy word, don't know where that came from, paradigm that's been in place in the US for a generation, right, since late 80s, is that states and tribal governments primarily regulate gambling, and federal government has some sort of like anti-gambling criminal laws that sit over the top of it, but doesn't authorize anything. And so the idea that under federal law, federal financial commodities law, you can have trading on sports events in all 50 states is totally disruptive to what everyone perceived the US market to be.
But it weakens the position of the regulator, and I think in the long run, I think we were saying this to Steve in a recent episode, Fintan. In the long run, it there's been some really shitty moments for regulators in the last couple of years. There's been moments like Australia and Nevada, especially, where there could have been criminal charges, there weren't, where they've been shown up to basically not really be doing all that much. And this makes them seem almost even more redundant. Or should that be less redundant? I don't know. But I think regulators, maybe this will be the point at which regulators will be able to go to government and say, we need increased resources, we need a broader remit, we should be doing this in our states. But it really does look to me from the outside like it needs a complete rethink. And I know Americans are really funny about federal oversight of anything. And there's strong identities, supposed totally different cultural identities state to state. Yeah, it's not how culture works. But anyway, but in this instance, federal oversight to just give a baseline of how everybody should work would not be a bad idea. To just give the actual bottom set of rules that you can all build from, because it would allow some form of consistency and a structural consistency that will allow everything to actually work better in future. Maybe I'm just being a little bit optimistic there.
There's absolutely a logic to that, and I don't think, apart from sort of the anti-federal pro-states' rights crowd, there's a lot of logic to having a consistent set of rules. The industry, one of the US gaming industry sort of favorite phrases is avoiding the camel's nose under the tent. That if you have a baseline set of federal rules, I think it's a phrase been used.
I don't know how you go camping, mate.
Yeah.
Also, that's not a camel.
Well, yeah, it's camel's nose. Let's be clear around that. But the
camel toes under the tent is a very different sentence.
But the idea is that once the camel puts his nose under the tent, the camel's coming into the tent. So the industry has historically wanted to avoid federal oversight in order to stop further federal encroachment in the future. That's the answer to it. And I think
Yeah.
the challenge of doing something logical in practice, so baseline set of federal minimum standards, is that's got to go through Congress, and Congress. Once
anything can happen.
Once gambling bills start moving, other issues get thrown in. So Native American tribes very hesitant, and I think for some good reason, to avoid amending IGRA, the federal law that governs tribal gaming, because it might take away what they already have. How are you going to address prediction markets and federal minimum standards? Many in the gaming industry are going to want to not abolish prediction markets, but make it very clear that sports betting is off limits for prediction markets. You've now got entrenched interests that would want to stop that. And there's various other things as well. So actually enacting federal legislation to set that baseline and to set some clearer rules of the road for all 50 states to follow kind of sounds good in theory, but very
it's not reality
in practice.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, you brought up the Native American interest in there, and that can't be, the importance of that can't be overstated, because like, and I'm always beating on about this, and Fintan probably thinks I've got a fucking chip on my shoulder about it, but like people in poverty, especially when they've been fucking put there, people with otherwise no access to healthcare, no access to education. You know, there are thousands of tribes in the US, thousands, and they all have a legitimate claim to some form of reparation. It's actually only a handful of them that have casinos. It's quite, it's a small number considering how many tribes there are. Obviously, some tribes have worked together on their claim for a casino, etc. And you know, sometimes that works really, really well.
So it's not as though that federal law, IGRA, is very much imperfect, and it actually violates tribal sovereignty by giving oversight and certain powers to the states. So this is not as though this is some perfect world that needs to be protected. The danger is, if it's amended, it could more like the concern of tribes, and history would back up their concerns, be amended for the worse, not for the better. So that's why I think the tribes would say, look, we need to keep what we have.
Because money's going to talk, isn't it? Especially with the current administration. And you know, there is genuine potential that it could be an absolute disaster. And here's the thing, like, and one of my second question that I didn't get to earlier was going to be, why does horse racing warrant such protection as it's received? And I'm not asking that in a nasty way. I've got no beef against the horse racing industry, but it doesn't half get protected compared to the rest of things, right?
No.
And, you know, in the US, hang on, in the US, if, say Connecticut got battered, right? And Connecticut is going to take a hit with the New York licenses. No two ways about that, right? There's a good reason why those Connecticut casinos were built where they were and why they're as big as they are. But they're going to take a hit. Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun, these are massive properties. They're employing tens of thousands of people. They are incredibly important to their local economy in all sorts of ways. And that's proper drip down economics. Giving people jobs and benefits, that's proper drip down economics. None of this fucking, let the billionaires keep it, because eventually it's bound to come down to the rest of us. So no, give people proper jobs, pay them a proper wage, give them skilled work, etc., right? We're talking tens of thousands of jobs in one casino in this instance. And there's plenty of other properties in the US that are a similar scale. I mean, admittedly, in terms of size, Foxwoods might be the biggest. But, you know, we are talking enormous scale. It's not the same thing as the horse racing lobby in the UK saying, but think of the jobs. This is like, if things go south in the US and the Native American interests are not protected, that'll have colossal generational effect. And that can't actually be overstated. I know people are really blasé about it, and they're like, oh, God, the tribes are protecting their interest in California. Well, I fucking would as well, because I've had nothing. And they're using the tribal properties to provide healthcare for the whole tribe and to provide education for the whole tribe. That's a big deal when you have actual poverty. Sorry, I've stopped now. I'm off my soapbox. Tell me then, Fintan, why are they so protected?
Go look at the election results, local election results in any part of the UK, and see how few votes actually get cast and how many, the difference between first and second place in terms of the winning margins. And you're talking hundreds, thousands, like low thousands. Like, it's, voting is such a small local thing that any group that can organize themselves at a local level and deliver votes, you know, so if the stable yard is like, right, there's a minibus and we're all going to go vote now, and everybody that works on the yard is bused to the voting booth, the polling station, whatever it's called, you can shift local elections quite quickly with 50 people, 100 people. And when they're also employed in the locale, they're spending money in the locale, they're, you know, the grain supplier is local, the farrier is local, the vets are local, the transport guys, the mechanics, and that population. If you're a politician, you have to listen to them and take them really seriously.
Here's the thing, though, and this is what does my head in about it a bit. You add up the numbers of all those people you just said, including everybody working in the stables. Mm-hmm. It's like saying, oh, God, yeah, in Scotland, just imagine if the whole whiskey industry mobilised itself. Do you know how many people it takes to run a distillery? Even quite a big distillery. It takes about 5 people. Right?
But the income, the local income that distillery brings in from American tourists and the money that distillery makes.
But we're talking about mobilising the voter base.
Yep.
What I'm saying is, in the horse racing industry, all the talk is of jobs and all of that jazz. I'm saying that the horse racing industry does not employ a lot of people.
It doesn't. Like, compared to your local Tesco's, right? It doesn't.
Compared to any other industry and any other hospitality industry.
But they're better organised. And they are very, very... So the local council...
They're very vocal.
The local councillor, like the local council is very reliant on these people for votes. And it trickles up, because then you need the councillors to do and it's the trickle up. It's a trickle up effect.
I think in the US, though, the horse racing industry is declining. It's been declining for more than a generation, but less popular in the US than in the UK. Someone said to me once, I asked this question,
but it's declining worldwide.
That's true, but I think it's much more so, and a much smaller part of the US gaming industry is horse racing compared to UK, to France, to other places. There are clearly some exceptions to that, but the response I got when I asked someone why is horse racing powerful in Congress and elsewhere, I said, well, horse racing is a sport of kings. In the US, our kings are our senators, and I think it tends to be a segment that punches above its weight, because the kind of people that breed racehorses and own racehorses, etc., tend to be wealthy people, politically powerful, politically connected people, often with multiple generations of that kind of connections and that kind of wealth. So there is definitely an ingrained power base that is built in and is about.
James's answer is far more sensible than mine.
I'm not dissing the racing industry at all. No. I come from a town with a race course. So I'm speaking realistically, right? Ludlow Racecourse has, I think, 15 race days a year. That's all. And they're well attended, even though they're nearly all midweek. and it does bring people in, but it's already a tourist-rich area. And 16 race days for a massive plot of land. You know, it doesn't add up for me. Let me put it another way, right? If I were trying to run a business and I needed, as you know, it's like oh God, this is a really bad comparison. But it's like in the States, whenever anybody talks about raising the minimum wage in various states for service staff, and there are some states where the minimum wage for service staff, for waiting staff, is $2 an hour. I mean, that's insane. And so the rest of it's made up in tips. But if we had to raise that, we'd have to raise our prices. Well, if you can't pay your staff enough to live on, you don't actually have a business. That's not my fault. That's not anybody else's fault. There are other issues affecting you. And if you want somebody to work a job, you pay them. And I told you it was a bad comparison.
It was.
I did warn you.
It's okay. We get the passion.
Just
look, horse racing is losing popularity. It's, you know, what's the next best alternative? And there's lots of better alternatives in terms of entertainment. That's it. It's a popularity contest, and people would.
Well, it's having to fight globally, isn't it? It's fighting with every other leisure pound or dollar. It's fighting with everything going on all around the world.
Yeah, like it's like this podcast. We've got to be more entertaining than Netflix and
fuck,
and every newspaper, and you know, downloading reports on Vixio or whatever. So you're
saying we should quit while we're behind.
We're competing against every piece of entertainment or content out there, right? That's it, and it's all a click away, right? So, you know, anybody who's listening to this is hugely grateful. It's an hour of your time, and you know, we're not as good as Succession, or Game of Thrones or whatever, right? So that's you take horse racing. We just take sports where, like, you've got UFC, you've got IPL cricket, you've got the NFL, you've got Premier League. Darts looks like great crack these days. You know, just there's so much. You know, power slap. Have you seen the one now with the rugby where the two boys just run at each other and just like it's like car crashes with a rugby ball, right? There's so many sports or entertainment or whatever, and it's horse racing. You know, F1's popular, like, or way more popular than it ever was. And so I think the storytelling, the branding, the formats, the accessibility. You know, racing needs a massive revamp to be relevant.
Yeah. And that's going to be tricky, especially as with most things that have a long tradition. Getting people to think outside that can sometimes be difficult, or for new things to be treated as almost sacrilegious, as opposed to how do we get new faces here? Yeah. How do we get young people here?
Well, it's also fragmented, right? So you got the different racecourse owners and, you know, the global, you know, but then it'll be things like if Dubai put $1 million on a prize money, then all the best horses are going to race there. It's not going to be UK racing. All right, so you end up with this Premier League effect where one league dominates everybody else. Sorry, James, go ahead.
You know, and I think exactly that, right? I think horse racing, this is including in the States, the marquee events are popular, probably more popular. I don't know if they're more popular than ever, but they're bigger than ever. Kentucky Derby and the other Triple Crown races.
Yeah, Preakness and all that jazz.
Yeah, huge events continue to be. It's more that there is there is less demand for the lower end of the supply. I think it's fair to say, generally speaking. And
yeah, it's one of the.
You have the US is fragmented, so you don't even have betting on horse racing fully integrated into betting on NFL and Major League Baseball, etc. I know DraftKings and FanDuel do have, and Caesars and I think BetMGM and others, they do have relationships and they do have pari-mutuel wagering apps that they partner with other companies to provide, but you can't open DraftKings today, decide on the same platform, do I want to place a bet on a horse race or bet on baseball, NFL? So it's not even, I don't think horse racing is not reaching a new audience of sports bettors.
That's very interesting. Because that would seem like a really easy way to revitalise.
Yeah. There's only a couple of states that allow for fixed odds betting on horse racing, and even then, that's still done in a pretty fragmented way. So, you would kind of thought that expansion of mobile sports betting in the States should have been a lifeline for horse racing, but it's not playing out.
Well, most American sports, in fact, a lot of sports, not just in North America, have short seasons or a relatively small amount of games.
No,
and so
even those with baseball where there's hundreds of games, it's still relatively short. It's still April to end of October. So,
but if you think, like, if I'm an operator and I've got like X amount of sports going on through the year, blah blah blah, then that thing that I keep banging on about, like, instead of that, businesses have to chase their frequent major bettors, as opposed to, if you think about it in UK terms, if there were a reason for that once a year Grand National bettor to bet 6 times a year, that's quite a big chunk of change. But it's spreading things out.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like things cluster, things overlap. There are relatively quiet periods. Like, you can't have January, February, March, April, May madness. You've just got March madness, and it's enormous. But are there things that could be done in other sports to sex them up and bring those? Do you know what I mean? I think that the gambling industry, because we've been talking about the gambling industry having a massive image problem. I mean, it's just colossal. But the gambling industry could be a big part of a conversation with many different sports in how to get bums on seats, get eyes on screens, etc., etc. And operators that also stream DAZN or whoever that does that kind of thing, they could all be part of this conversation to actually kind of solidify and improve things for years and years to come. But I am a bit of an idealist.
You really are.
Yeah.
The amount of stars that would need to align for even that conversation to happen is just huge.
It's not that difficult. You just phone somebody up and say, "Can we have a chat? Bring so and so."
It's the one miracle rule, right? So if you're ever looking at a business model where it relies on 2 miracles to occur, business is doomed. If there's only one miracle, it might happen, right? So you've asked for operators to come together, speak with one voice on a particular topic that's not tax related, right? You've then, on the other side, you've got the world of fragmented sporting governing bodies that are receptive to something beyond just give us a big check and fuck off, right? And then those 2 conversations need to happen. And then stuff needs to happen that actually makes it work, right? So there's miracle number 3, right? So that's 3 miracles for one sport.
James, Fintan and me both did a little questionnaire that Leo Judkins put onto LinkedIn. I don't know if you're familiar with Leo's work, but he does this. Is it iGaming Mastermind? iGaming Leader, sorry. And we're both big fans of Leo. It's a questionnaire to assess your leadership skills. And Fintan got a mighty 62%. And I did say to him, "Well done, that's very good." I got 85%. But I think that the difference is that when I was answering questions about my team, I was just really talking about Fintan. And because one of the questions in it is, When was the last time a member of your team told you were wrong? I'm like, all the time. My God, I'm brilliant at this. I think Leo should. That's it. I think Leo should put a little caveat in that. And were you wrong? Because it could just be you're absolutely fucking hopeless and wrong all the time, and your team hate you. Fintan. Why I order. James, for anybody that is interested in what Vixio Gambling Compliance do, how do they find you?
You can obviously find us on LinkedIn, which is Vixio Regulatory Intelligence, or you can go to www.vixio.com. There you can download free insights and reports on various subjects that we've spoken about today on the gambling film, and learn a lot more about what we do.
So Vixio is Vixio.
Vixio.
I mean, I didn't want to make it sound really obvious, but I was just sitting there thinking, could that be misspelled? Would I misspell that? Yes, I probably would.
Does it stand for something, or is it a word?
It is a mashup of two Latin words, via and axiom. So the path to a universal truth, which is
wow.
Yeah, very deep, right? Yeah.
Wow, some branding agency got paid a fortune for that.
Yeah.
Or was it you over a pint?
No,
what happened? Go on, what's the story?
No, it wasn't me over a pint. I'd have come up with something else, I'm sure. But it was a branding exercise. We picked a load of different names and then mixed it together. But that's where it's from. There you go. I'm not sure many people know that, so this could be an exclusive for you guys.
I long assumed that it was because the person that founded the company's lucky number was 6,110.
That could be the case as well. But
yeah, I'm really sorry. That's the kind of thing.
Let me just check his maths. VI.
Oh no, it's not how 6,110 would actually be written.
I was going to say it's not even close.
There's a 6.
It's 6,11,0.
Fix. Oh yeah, I did too. I spelled it wrong.
I literally just spelled it out. Mate, James, I don't know what your team's like, but my team sucks.
You'll be sent back to remedial.
You'll get an even higher leadership score for honest feedback.
There we go. Coaching in the moment. Look at him.
James, thank you very much for joining us, and we will hopefully see you again.
Yeah, I'd love to.
If you've enjoyed this episode of the Gambling Files podcast, please find us on LinkedIn. Give us a big, juicy, succulent like. That nearly went wrong. You can find us under the name The Gambling Files Podcast. You can find us on Twitter under The Gambling Files. I think the handle is just @GamblingFiles. You can connect to myself, John Bruford, or Fintan Costello, also on LinkedIn. We're also both on Twitter. And you can find all of our previous episodes at www.thegamblingfiles.com. If you enjoyed it, please share, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your colleagues, and we'll see you next time.